we got ourselves a little question. And who has written in? It's the Hollywood hot dog himself. Lurian has written in. And he says, guys, pick 2 characters from different PlayStation IP who would work well together in an escape room, and 2 who would not get along. Now, Lurian's given us an example here to help us on this, okay? He says, i.e., Nathan Drake and Aloy would be great at escape rooms. He is smart with puzzles. She scans things. Very true. Versus Joel and Deacon would butt heads. And Joel is meant Joel from The Last of Us, and Deacon is meant from that motorbike game that goes on for way too long. That I can't even remember what it's called.
Days Gone.
Days Gone. God damn, that I did lose days to that fucking game. It was good. I got the platinum, but Jesus Christ, it was a long old slog. So, guys, what are your thoughts? Spence, we always start with youngest here. So, why don't you give me your 2 who would work well together, and we'll go around in the cycle.
Okay. Well, it's such an open question, this, isn't it? I'm trying to think of who actually would be good. And I'm thinking, I'll go with, for one, and this might be a surprising one, because Lurian has prefaced this with Aloy would be able to scan stuff. So you're assuming they have their gear, right?
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
So I'm going to say my first character, Celine from Returnal, who we know she is. I mean, the laws, God knows. We don't actually know exactly what she is, but she's smart. I think she's an astronaut. I think. So she's very clever and she can scan things. So that's just Aloy, but a bit of a one-up as well.
Yeah,
A bit
okay.
Of extra intelligence. And then the other character, I want to say Ratchet, but I don't know why. Or maybe Clank. Clank would be able to just hop on her back and just help her throughout it, like he helps Ratchet.
Bro, can you imagine the movement tech in Returnal if you had, like, Clank on the back doing his, like, you know...
Oh,
like,
you could hover.
Yeah, you could just, like, glide over stuff. So you do the sword cancel tech, fly up, and then you just hover down. Bro.
That'd be sick.
Busted. Absolutely busted. No, I think that's a great shout, to be fair. I could see them working. And Celine's one of those people that she's pretty independent, and Clank generally, for the most part, is just along for the ride. So
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to, they're not going to bash heads too much. I think he'd be, like, quite logical about it. And then Celine, it does get a bit emotional, but Clank's that level-headed, isn't he? He's a good sidekick character. I reckon he'd be able to steer all right. It's a great fucking answer, that one. Any thoughts on that one, Phil, before we come across to yourself?
He might have stolen my answer slightly. So I might have picked Clank. But I'll give you my reasons for picking Clank in a minute, because they are slightly different to Spencer.
Let's cut the mystery and let's just get straight to it then. So what's your combo?
Okay, so my combo, my duo that's going to be going into the escape room. So first, we need someone to basically carry Clank around. So I was thinking we need a nice strong character, someone who's strong-minded, someone that doesn't, back down from a situation and keeps moving forward. So I want to do a bit of a throwback. I want to go back to Nathan Hale. Okay, from Resistance as my main character within this escape room, okay? Because he just keeps on going, no matter what you throw at him, and he'll find a way through it. Okay, unfortunately, and here's a spoiler for the people that haven't played Resistance, he succumbs to a chimeran virus by the end of the game, but he goes out with a bang, so he's willing to sacrifice everything for the cause. So that's my main character within the escape room. I'm going with Nathan Hale. And to back him up, Spence, you've already picked him. It's Clank. So he was a robot designed a little bit different, wasn't he? He was designed for war, but he actually pivoted slightly and his intellectual personality came through. And he's absolutely hilarious. We've got Nathan Hale, very straight-faced, gunning for it, going hard in the paint. And then we've got Clank. He's a little bit of comic relief when you're in the escape room, because I've been to a couple of escape rooms and they get a little bit stressful. You need someone to go, ha ha ha, look, here's a little bit of a joke over here. And that's Clank. He's going to bring you through with a smile. So my duo, Nathan Hale and Clank. I think that's allowed for me to pick Clank as well, right?
I don't see why not. I mean, the thing about it is there's only so many PlayStation IP characters that you could go for. And Clank's a great sidekick character. I think you both absolutely nailed it, with that. And certainly a better choice than, some of the other sidekick characters that you could go for. Like, who the fuck wants a turtle from Sly Cooper? in there, you know? I don't even know that guy's name. I know he's smart, that bloke, right? But yeah, I don't know. A slow-moving turtle in an escape room is all about speed, isn't it?
It's true.
Yeah, definitely. And you need the brains, don't you? Because the sidekick character always tends to be the brainy one as opposed to the brawn, doesn't he? So if we're looking at God of War, obviously you've got Kratos and Mimir, I suppose, would be his sidekick, wouldn't he? When he's touring about. So he would be the knowledge and Kratos would be the muscle. So that's the duo I've gone for. But Davey, I'm interested where you're going with this one.
Okay, so I was thinking with escape rooms, they're all big puzzles, aren't they? And they're all things that you've got to figure out to be able to get out of. So I thought, right, who's really good at solving like kind of mysteries or getting into situations and finding their way out of it? And generally, with a good bit of style, they're not going to be too aggressive. And I thought, let's get the classic burglar himself. Let's get Sly Cooper in the mix. I was thinking, right, Sly Cooper, and then who's going to work well with him? Well, when I think back and I think of all the characters that work well with thieves, it's got to be Victor goddamn Sullivan. I reckon those two together in the escape room would solve it so fucking fast. Because Sully, sure, he gets outshone by Nath all the time, but he holds his own, man. And he does it with style, and he's fucking class as well. Sitting there smoking a cigar, and he'd be like, Sly, you figure it out, kid. And then he'll just be giving him hints. And Sly would just nail it. So I reckon those two would work so fucking well together.
And you've got to think with Sully, he's been there and done everything, hasn't he? So he probably knows the answer, but he just wants Sly to struggle a little bit, doesn't he? He kind of knows the answer. He's like, you figure it out, as you said. Just you go ahead, and I'll just sit back here with a big cigar. But you are thinking he's in an escape room. It's a closed room, isn't it? So where's that smoke going to go? I think he's only increasing the difficulty here.
I think you never know what kind of escape room you're in for here. And if you want to find out if there's lasers in there,
I knew.
Oh,
you know, Metal Gear, you know straight away. The only way you can see those infrared things by pulling out your pack of fags. He's just thinking ahead. This is another thing that Sully's already gone. He's 4 strokes ahead. He's probably the guy who designed the escape room himself. And he's put himself in there to test his knowledge. You know, blackout night last night, so we can't remember even designing it. And now he's back in there the next day. You know, that's the kind of guy that Sully is. But I think we've all got some great answers there for our troops that would get along. But when we're talking about characters that don't get along, I think this is where now we can go off a little bit more on this. So Spence, who are your 2 characters that you feel wouldn't get on doing an escape room?
Okay, so the first one I think is super easy and obvious because he's going to be absolutely useless. Crash Bandicoot. What is he going to do other than spin around and destroy the whole room? And you can't even like chat to him because he'll just whoa, and that's it. There's nothing else. There is nothing else. So I'm just trying to think of if they were paired with Crash, would get frustrated. And I'm going to base this on how I played the game. So I played it as the villain with Cole McGrath in Infamous. And I think he'd probably end up killing Crash Bandicoot and probably break it out himself, but he wouldn't solve the puzzles, I don't think. He would just kind of force his way out. So ultimately he would lose the escape room and Crash Bandicoot would just be murdered. Yeah, I don't think they'd get on.
No, I can see Cole being hot-headed. When he's on the evil route, he does not give a shit, does he?
Not at all.
He's so selfish. And yeah, I can see Crash just getting... Well, I mean, the thing about Crash is he's basically invulnerable, right? Because you get electrocuted, stomped on, squished all the time. He just pops back up in the next life. So I think that Crash would just keep going and it would just get Cole even more angry to the point where he just explodes with electricity and bursts his way out the door. And is it a typical solve? No. But frustration eventually leads to a payoff, right? So I can see it happening.
I don't think that counts as a success. If you go to an escape room and you boot down the door, you don't get to be like, yeah, record, baby. That's not how it works, you know. You got to solve the puzzles. So I don't think that would be allowed. But I think either way, it would just not be a fun time for them or the escape room employees.
No, definitely not. And you wouldn't say shit, mind. If Cole McGrath lightninged up the play, I wouldn't say a fucking word. I'd be like, yeah, nice one. Here's your gold medal.
I'd have gone as he walked through the door, lad.
Yeah, with just electricity flowing all over him.
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, just doors over there. Good luck. Fuck off. I've gone.
Mate, I'd do like a Star Wars Sith quote just on the off chance that I can learn how to wield this power, and then just bend down and just be like, I'll serve you, master, in the hopes I can learn these electric powers for myself, and then I can rise up and take them for myself. But yeah, we'll leave that for the moment. What about yourself, Phil? How are you feeling about Spencer's combo here?
I'm liking it, but I'm seeing some flaws. Let me poke some holes here. So, are we allowing Crash Bandicoot as a PlayStation IP these days?
I would say so, surely, right?
There's the first question.
Are
we letting him get away with that one?
I was going to let it slide because he is originally, Naughty Dog did create him. I know he's not owned by them anymore. It's not a PlayStation guy. It's an Activision, now a Microsoft IP, I suppose, if you want to take it down that line. But I'd allow it for the sake of this.
All right, we'll let him get away with that one. But then Cole McGrath, right? I haven't played the Infamous games, but from my understanding, there's a choice in that game, isn't there? Whether you're good or you're bad. So you're very much going off the bad route with Cole. What if he chose good?
Well, that's what I said.
Rooms? What if he chose to actually solve the puzzle and put his mind to it? Use his powers for good.
See, that's the whole point of the thing, isn't it? I said I'm basing this off my experience when I played Infamous, and I very much...
Right.
Well, actually, I'm not... I played the...
You're a bad guy. You went down the bad route, didn't you, Spence?
I actually played the entire game good, but then at the very end, it gives you the choice, and you can just immediately flip to max evil. And at the very end, I just went, yeah, fuck it, I'll blow it up. And then you just get way better powers as well. It pays off to be evil in that game. So I think you go evil, mate.
You just wanted to see the world burn, didn't you?
Yeah. Nice, dude.
Well. Let's see if I can top that, okay? Because I've picked two people out of the PlayStation hat. And I've gone for the obvious, probably the most obvious PlayStation IP. I've gone with old Kratos because he was an angry man back in those days. He wasn't very intelligent. He just walked along and smashed shit up, didn't he? He was angry, and that's all he did. He just went along and just caused destruction. He killed a lot of people and showed very little remorse for it throughout those games. So I could see him causing some shit if he was in an enclosed space, not being able to get out, because he wouldn't have much logic, would he? I don't remember many difficult puzzles within that game. Okay, maybe there was some small bits and pieces within that game, but nothing, to the level of an escape room, I wouldn't think. And I'm going to team him up, okay? I'm going to team him up with Sackboy. Now, you might say, yeah, Sackboy, he's quite good at getting through obstacles, isn't he? But that's in Little Big Planet. This guy is useless in the real world, isn't he? Okay, he can pop a few bubbles, but outside that, in the real world, you put him in an escape room, what the fuck's he going to be doing, right? This guy's been useless since 2012, when he had Little Big Planet on the Vita. Up to then, he's done absolutely jack shit. He's just been sat on the couch, phoning it in on PlayStation. So I think he's absolutely useless. And Kratos, he would get into that room, and he would see that little shit, and he'd just want to murder him, wouldn't he? So that's what would happen in the escape room. And if they both have to get out and Kratos has already cut that Sackboy up, then they're both losers, aren't they?
To be fair, I wouldn't blame Kratos either, because Sackboy had literally the worst launch game on PlayStation 5. I still am so bitter about that fucking game. And people were like, I remember when it got brought to what was it, Sackboy Big Adventure, right? I remember when it got brought to PC, and then people were like, PC gamers don't buy games. And it's like, huh? It's just the game shit, so no one bought it. Like, there's no like thing you can read into this. It's like, what did they expect was going to happen when you put it on fucking PC? No one fucking bought it on PlayStation either, man. It's only the end game that game's actually class. Up until then, with the time trials, oh, yeah, I wouldn't blame Kratos at all. I think he's in the right. I think just you have to eviscerate Sackboy. Sackboy is a creature that, Kratos has fought many kind of mythic entities and many, haunting visions of creatures. And if I saw this little, like, 6-inch little Sackboy fucker running around, I'm not letting him get near any orifice. I'm ripping him to shreds. Because I don't want him getting in somewhere he shouldn't get in. And next thing you know, I don't care if you're a god on the outside. I don't know how soft you are on the inside, but I wouldn't want Sackboy to find out. So he's getting ripped seam to seam.
I'll tell you what, I think he'd actually be even more useless than you're thinking. He's only 8 centimeters tall.
Oh, it's fucking
Wow.
pointless.
Well, there we go.
It's literally can't do jack shit. I was thinking of putting Sackboy as well, because honestly, before Big Adventure, you could only move on a 2D plane as well. So awful. And in Sackboy, he doesn't have his special powers of placing stuff anymore as well. But I will defend that game. I think it was mostly only bad because the netcode was diabolically shit. I do think that was its big downfall. But that final trial is still awesome.
You could see where I was going with this, really, guys. I just wanted to see Sackboy murdered.
Yeah.
I just wanted to punch down a little bit more. So any opportunity we get, listeners, viewers, if you send in questions, if there's an opportunity for us to slam dunk on someone, probably going to be Little Big Planet, isn't it? A Media Molecule.
Yeah. You know, we keep it in the home turf. They're a UK-based studio. He's a UK creation, and it ain't our best. You know, nobody's going to sit there and say, oh, the UK home is such greats such as the Beatles and Sackboy. No. He's not going to be anywhere near the fucking top of that list.
That's the first time that sentence has ever been spoken.
And
now it's immortalized on episode 89 of an In Peace We Trust PlayStation podcast. Wow.
Jesus. What an escape room that'd be, mine. Sackboy and the Beatles. I think they'd do it.
Jesus. Yeah, I reckon they'd work together. I reckon they'd work together quite well. Well, for mine, guys, I've gone for... I don't know if you'll allow this, so I've got a backup just in case you don't, right? So the first one I've gone for is a bad guy from Killzone 2. He's called General Radic. Now, if you've played PlayStation All-Stars, he's included in that as well. But General Radic is basically the top space Nazi. Suffers no shit. Anybody who gets in his way gets eviscerated. He's got a cool-ass stylish costume. Super cool. But he would not stand incompetence. And then my second choice, if you'll allow it, would be the car from Wipeout. Because what the fuck is that going to do? What's that going to do in the escape room? It'd be fucking pointless. You couldn't even turn around in it because it'd be too big. And then General Radic won't know how to drive it. And I imagine he'll get so annoyed with the fact he doesn't understand a piece of technology that he's never seen before that he'd end up destroying it and in turn destroying pretty much the room he's in. And that would be his way out. But if you don't allow the car, if you think it has to be, that's not as much of a character for you, I got somebody else that is just as incompetent. But I'll see what you guys think about my duo first.
I quite enjoy the car, to be fair. It'll be fast. If the escape room's slightly bigger and it means from getting one side of the room to the other, it's going to be pretty fast. It's probably going to be the fastest, isn't it, on PlayStation, to get from A to B, if we've got any distance to travel within the escape room. But we're all assuming the escape room's tiny. It might be huge. So in that case, actually, that's a wise choice, isn't it? So who knows? I quite like that one. I'd be willing to accept it, but I am interested where you're going. But I'll let Spencer rebuttal first.
Yeah, all I'm thinking, right, is I understand. Do they drive themselves, or is there someone inside the car driving it?
No, there's somebody inside driving it. It doesn't drive itself, but they do run off like anti-grav stuff in the tracks. So if it's just an escape room, it shouldn't even be able to move properly. It should just be just an object there, and you might be like dragging it along the floor. I don't know. So I imagine it. Colonel Radix like gets in it. He's like starts up. He's like, yes, finally, and then it just doesn't. It's just like fucking just along the floor. It's a fuck's sake.
I want to allow it, but I feel like I can't. If the cars drove themselves, I think I'd allow it because they're the character then. But if there's someone inside the car, you're technically playing as the driver, not the vehicle, aren't you?
Okay, I see your point. I did think about that. So that's why I got a backup. So I'll give you the backup, and then I suppose you can lay down what you think. So my backup would be, of course, General Radic, who's returning, and then joining him would be somebody who is truly incompetent, and that's Dan Fortescue from Medieval.
Oh,
that guy, oh mate, he's a pretend hero, and he comes back, and sure, he goes on a quest to become a hero, but his voice alone would drive General Radic wild. His voice, if you haven't heard his voice for a while, Jesus Christ, he sounds like Mr. Bean, bro. General Radic would suffer none of it, and his skull would be kicked straight off his bony head. And sure, he'd still be fine, right? And he'd just put it back on. But I think it would just drive General Radic even wilder. And seeing like a little cartoon worm poke out of his skull, bro, I think all that would end up happening would be that General Radek would try and run an experiment on how he can bring this to the rest of the Helghast so that they have like 1,000-year army. And that would be the only thing that would come out of this. There would be no solving of that escape room. It would be Sir Daniel Fortescue getting carved up and experimented on for the betterment of the Helghast. And that's as much as we get from it.
Are we going for the original Medieval, or are we going to go for the updated graphics on that? Because that might matter slightly. You might be slightly better looking in the newer reimagining of Medieval.
He's horrific in either way, to be honest. He's, if I saw that lumbering towards me in this ungainly run and really long legs and arms, I'd run for the fucking hills, man. And General Radek wouldn't run. He'd take it down, and he wouldn't. He
might think though he's never seen something like that. He might be like, "What the fuck?" and shit himself. He might run. He's used to fighting the bad guys in Killzone or the good guys in Killzone, I suppose. But an eternal, immortal skeleton, I think he'd shit himself, lad.
He might do. He might. Yeah, he might do. He'd be wise to be fair, but I think he's too much of a man for that. Like he'd see it down, pump it full of lead, and so Daniel Fortescue's just like, "Oh God, please don't shoot me." It's like, "Oh, fuck off."
It's not the impressions round.
It was good though. It was
really good, really good. Yeah, you'd get my vote at the end of Quick News for that one.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, so that's where I'm going with this. I don't know if you got any thoughts on this final pairing, Phil, before we move it on.
I'm backing Spencer on this one because, like, Daniel Fortescue, let's get the words correctly out of my mouth. Surely the Helghast guy would be quite scared of him. Yeah, I would be. If I was locked in a room with a skeleton that, had armor, and he was walking around with that crazy weird voice, that would freak me out. I wouldn't be able to solve any puzzles or problems because I'd be so worried about what the hell's behind me. That's the most obscure monstrosity that I could imagine to be locked in a room with. Out of all of them, I'd rather be locked in the room with Sackboy because he's just like a little teddy, right? But the guy from Medieval, Jesus Christ, you'd be like, a little bit scared, especially if the lights go off.
If you sat in the corner like, "It's not real, it's not real, it's not real, it's not real," I'll wake up, I'm going to wake up. Whilst he's running around just breaking shit. It'd be awful.
Yeah. Oh, well, I really like that, yeah. That probably is quite right. And to be fair, that's, I suppose, why they don't get along, right?
Yeah,
wins all round.
You've done it. You've done it, mate. Yeah, you've made the pair.
Well, I think we've all done pretty well on this. Lurian, I hope you're happy with the answers to your questions. And of course, listeners, if you want to take control of the show, if you want to submit any questions, loads of ways to do it. The easiest way is probably just to reach out to us on Twitter. So at PS We Trust. All our individual Twitters are, of course, in the description of the show as well. You can write into the email pswetrust@gmail.com. More than welcome to go on there as well.